Hello and welcome to the Fulhamish quick take. Aston Villa 3, Fulham 1. Another really tough day for this Fulham side in this 2023-24 season. It was a grey, glum, drizzly afternoon up in the Midlands, and Fulham were comfortably beaten by an Aston Villa side that, especially at home, is on absolute fire. That was their 13th league win at home on the bounce, which is unbelievable when you put that into perspective. And they completely deserved it. They were deserved winners, and Fulham really, for the first 45 minutes up at Villa Park, didn't lay a glove on Unai Emery's men. We were totally dominated. They were just so much better than us, and it was a real concern to see the gulf in quality between these two teams. You could tell quite quickly from the first 5-10 minutes of exactly how this game was going to go. And we sort of rolled over in that first half, and Villa swarmed all over us. There was the early award of a penalty, which was correctly overturned, but it was just a sign of things to come. Bernd Leno was forced into a smart save, and then Anthony Robinson at the back post ricochets off him and into the back of the net for his second own goal of the season. This one, I'll be honest, it doesn't really seem like his fault. I think Bernd Leno just, there's a moment of indecision where he really should come out and just deal with that ball, but he just hesitates. It sneaks underneath him, and there's no way that Jedi can react in time to keep that one out. But he is seeming to make some sort of habit of popping up at his own back post and sticking it into his own net, a habit he could do with getting rid of quite quickly. It really wasn't his best day. It was, I would say, probably one of his worst performances in a Fulham shirt, and it's a real shame to see, but he just didn't really offer much going forward, barring the assist, and he had a hand in all three Villa goals, unfortunately, so a day to forget for our fullback, and I hope he bounces back strongly from it, because I still have faith that Anthony Robinson is a really good player and a real asset to this club when he's at his best. After we went down 1-0, it didn't really improve for us. We didn't see a reaction from Fulham. It was much of the same, and John McGinn popped up before half-time to make it 2-0. He received the ball after a very tame Anthony Robinson header. He received it on the edge of the area, shaped to shoot, drew Joao Palhinha in, and he left him for dead before curling into the bottom corner past Bernd Leno, who had no chance. And you got to say, John McGinn was superb. He played brilliantly, and I'm sure Unai would be delighted, because it felt like there was a clear game plan from Villa, which was John McGinn, your job is to negate and nullify the influence of Joao Palhinha, and it is rare to see such an uninfluential performance from Joao, because whenever he had the ball, John McGinn was there. Whenever John McGinn had the ball, Palhinha was in, trying to battle, winning it back, and he was just smarter than him. McGinn won foul after foul after foul out of Joao until eventually he was booked, probably wrongly, for something that didn't look like a foul in the end. But McGinn knew exactly what he was doing all game, and you've got to give him credit, because he did it very well. And he is that sort of player that if he's on your team, you love him, but when you play against him, you really hate him, because he's niggly, he gets into tackles, he goes down quite easily. He's a very smart footballer, is John McGinn, and he was very frustrating to play against yesterday. And for me, he was probably man of the match. But we went in at the halftime interval 2-0 down, and deservedly so. If anything, it probably could have been more than 2-0. So we were lucky in a sense. And the away end at that point, I've got to say, was pretty glum. It was just hard to see how Fulham were going to come back out and change this game. It wasn't an even contest. It didn't feel like we were just a moment away from getting ourselves back into it. We were just comfortably second best. And unfortunately, we've said that a few times this season, and Fulham are just not the force they were last season. And it is a real shame to see, and it really hurts to see how far we've regressed over the past few months. However, credit to Marco. I think at halftime he seemed to instill something in the players. He said that he wanted to give them their belief back. It seemed to work, and it coincided with the introduction of Harry Wilson at the halftime interval, and he had a big impact on the game. Harry came on, and he definitely changed things for Fulham. And now part of it, yes, is prefaced by the fact that Villa sat back and they didn't really need to do anything because they were already 2-0 up, but we were better. And Harry Wilson was a large reason for that. He brought a bit of zip. He brought a directness and a creativity. We know what Harry Wilson brings to this team, and he brought it in that second half. And I think it's easy to say in hindsight, but given how he played in that second half, he probably should have started because unfortunately, Bobby Decordova-Reid had no impact on that game in that first half and was rightly taken off at half time. However, after what was a strong start to the second half, seeing Raul hit the post after some great work by Alex Iwobi, we shot ourselves in the foot. As we so often see this season, we were just the architects of our own downfall. A corner that we took sees sort of drifts out, cleared by Villa, lands to Anthony Robinson, who dallies on the ball. He overthinks it, and then he's crowded out by 3 Villa players, and they fly down the other end and kill the game. 3-0. Ollie Watkins popping up at the back post after we failed to really recover from giving the ball away. And when you boil it down, Fulham should have done better defensively there, but it's a great bit of work from John McGinn. He plays a lovely ball in between our lines for the cross to go into Ollie Watkins. And at that point, it was done. It was signed, sealed, delivered. And unfortunately, regardless of how we played in that second half, the damage had been done. And then that lapse of concentration really, really killed us off. That being said, we did finally get our goal. We got a goal, which is something to celebrate in itself, but even more so because it was Raul Jimenez who got it. His first for the club, his first in 33 league games. What a relief. I mean, it was an unmissable chance, but he did well to keep up with play after what was a lovely ball by Harry Wilson over the top to Anthony Robinson, who had the easy task of squaring it to our Mexican, and he tucked home. And I think there was just a sense of relief within the crowd at that point. You know, he's got his goal. He'll be delighted. I'm sure that Marco was starting to be wonder, and I'm sure we're all wondering, is this the start of a revival? Can this just spark something in Raul? Because I don't think he played that badly yesterday. I think he was, by and large, pretty decent. You know, he held up the ball pretty well. He linked the play. There was a couple of nice flicks that sort of took us upfield, started counter-attacks. And to top that off with a goal, we've got to look at it as a positive. We've got to just try and sift through all the negatives that have come out of this weekend and say, we've got a striker who has got a goal. Can we kick on from there? I'm sure some people will say no, but there's that potential. There's that hope. I think the only other sort of positive coming out from the on-pitch performance was Alex Iwobi. I thought he was really, really good again. There's just a spark that he provides this Fulham team. It's like an intangible something that when Iwobi's on the pitch, we are just better. I'm certain that he makes us better by being on the pitch. And sometimes you can't tell quite what it is, but you know, his ability in tight spaces to dribble out of situations, to drag us up the field. He sort of the prime example of that was when he took on 2 Villa defenders in that second half, and then Raul went on to hit the post from the chance that he created. I just really like him in this side, and I don't really think it matters whether he's playing in the 8, in the 10, or on the left wing. I just want him on the pitch because I'm certain we're a better team with him than without him. And so I think the flip side of that is that a man who had another poor day was Andreas Pereira. He's just going through a real rough patch this whole season, really. He's not been at it. And his tendency to drift out of games and sort of become invisible used to be supported at least and arrested by the fact that he could deliver a great set piece. But we seem to be a little bit flat from set pieces as well at the moment. So it's really not working for Andy. And maybe it's time for a little bit of a break for him. Just a little bit of time outside of this starting 11. Maybe let Alex Iwobi play a bit higher up the pitch. And in behind, you can drop in Harrison Reed, Sasha Lukic, or maybe club captain Tom Kearney, because he seems to never disappoint nowadays, TC. He comes on the pitch and you know exactly what he's going to give you. He's so confident and assured in possession. It feels like he never gives the ball away. And I just wonder if maybe Fulham need our captain on the pitch, dictating play and making things happen. Because every time he comes on, he just looks like he is going to contribute positively to this side. It's going to be interesting to see what Marco does in our next league game. Finally, I think the last positive take, and I know I'm really scraping the barrel here because there are just way more negatives than there were positives, but we've got to sift through it. We've got to find these positives. Kenny Tete and Adama Traore back in the squad, and that can only be a good thing. It can only be a good thing. You can look at how good Timmy Castagna has been, and he has been. I think he's been steady, is the word I think I'd use. He doesn't... I don't think he ever shines, Castagna, but I think he's reliable, he's dependable. But I just strongly believe that Kenny Tete is one of the best right-backs in this league. And his return, I think, will be swiftly followed with a return to the starting 11, because we know about his 1v1 qualities, his ability to get up that flank and put in these arcing balls into the box. He's a great footballer, and that sort of tenacity that Kenny brings, I think we're missing. And it's not a slight on Castagna, but it is absolutely just praise for Kenny Tete, because I'm a big fan. And then secondly, Adama Traore. I think we're just screaming out for something different, and we've got that something different back in the squad now. You know, we lack pace, we lack chaos, we lack unpredictability, and Adama Traore brings you those things. And yes, he's going to frustrate with his end product. We know that. But at the moment, Fulham are just screaming for someone to do something different, something not so predictable. And I think the return of Adama Traore could help with that. If he can see him get at opposition defences, get in behind them, I think we should hopefully just see a slightly different element to this Fulham side. But obviously, beyond that, it's hard to take many positives out of a 3-1 loss where you are so comfortably beaten. And you've got to say the gulf in quality between Villa and Fulham is a real concern. Because Villa will be right up there this season. Villa will finish top 7, top 8. I think they'll probably get back into Europe again. And to be so far off them, you know, if you're looking, let's say they finish 7th, if we're that far off the team finishing 7th, suddenly we're starting to worry. Because you're looking at wins for Everton, wins for Bournemouth, a point for Sheffield United this weekend, and we're starting to worry about being dragged into something silly, something that we shouldn't be involved in. Because ultimately, given where we finished last season, we should have never been in this position this season. But I think we've got to accept that we are in this conversation right now of a relegation battle, and we shouldn't be. We've had a tough run of games. 3 losses from 4, and we probably expected to lose all 4. But it's 1 win in 7 as the bigger picture. We've got an international break coming up now, and this is a real moment where Fulham are going to have to come out flying when we come back on the 27th of November at Craven Cottage against Wolves, because that is quite quickly turning into a must-win game. It's an absolute must not lose, but it feels like a must-win to me. And Wolves are not a bad side. They're a lot better than I think anyone thought they were going to be under Gary O'Neill. It was a great result for them at the weekend at home to Spurs. They played very well. They've got a couple of familiar faces in there that we know what they bring to the table, coming up against a tenacious Mario Lemina in midfield, who was really, really good against Spurs. But we've got to be getting something out of that game. And it's made even tougher by the fact that we will be without Joao Palhinha, who is suspended after picking up his 5th yellow card. So it's going to be a tough one. You know, we're going to have to stand up. There's got to be people in that squad who stand up and say, we're going to fight for every single point this season, because it didn't feel like anyone was really doing that at Villa Park. Thank you very much for listening. I'm hoping that it was cathartic for you as it was for me. It was a real glum day up in the Midlands, but we've got a bit of a break now. Go off. We'll take some time off during the international break. Try and forget about football as much as possible. And if you're not forgetting about it, try and forget about league football. Enjoy the international break. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you for listening. And come on, you Whites.